Hello and welcome to Modeller's Monday Roundup, Episode 7. While awaiting some components for the Star Wars diorama build that I have on order to arrive, and also the fact that I can't get to the model railways and where they're stored due to the current lockdown situations, I've decided to bring forward making a start at one of the projects I had for later in the year to get underway. It all came about, this one, because of a friend approached me about forming a World War II reenactment group based on 253 Squadron of the RAF during the Battle of Britain when they were based at RAF Kenley, which isn't too far from where we live. So as he was going to get this underway, I thought I would also build a diorama of the squadron while they were there at RAF Kenley, and they had Hurricane Mark 1s, so I have some to build, so it just made sense to make a diorama. And I've reached out to the RAF Kenley's revival project, who've been very helpful. They immediately got back to my initial communication and gave me some info, and also asked me to join their Facebook group, Kenley Airfield, and through there I have been sent a wealth of information, mainly centred around the blast pens that are around the airfield for protecting the aircraft, but we'll look at those in depth in a minute, and where we're going to start the diorama build. So this is a drawing I have done of RAF Kenley. The site comprised of 2 runways, which had a taxiway all round the outside, which then linked onto the 12 blast pens. Each pen was big enough to hold 2 aircraft, and around them were the flight huts for the aircrew. There were 4 hangars and an array of other buildings dotted all around, including some of the main ones here: the operations room, officers' mess, station HQ, watch office and the hospital. And here I have highlighted the area that I shall attempt to model. I've chosen the east side of the airfield due to it being closer to the runway, so the diorama won't need to be as deep. And also it has a slightly bigger array of the different buildings, and we can also maybe have a go at trying to add hangar 3 with the watch office on the side of it. So as to stop the diorama being too wide, I'm going to move the runway marked here closer to the pen I shall build first, number 12, indicated here. So now concentrating solely on the blast pens, this is a closer look at the one chosen. all the pens around RAF Kenley were known as E pens, as they look like a capital E. And we can see that there's 2 aircraft situated in this picture of the one that I shall be attempting to model first. And it also, to the side of it, has the dispersal hut for the aircrew. And then you can see there's 2 white strips either side, which I'm still trying to research what exactly they were for. So hopefully we'll be having a site visit as soon as lockdown eases and we're allowed to travel again, and we can have a closer look. But there are coming up some pictures that have been submitted to me of the pens as they currently are, and also a look at these 2 strips on either side. So if anyone has any information, we'd love for you to put it in the messages underneath or contact us via the addresses at the end. So having looked at various pictures and drawings and diagrams online of the pens, and having chatted with some people via the Facebook groups, I got rough dimensions of the pen. So it'd be just over 50 meters wide. So I have scaled that in the top diagram here down to what it would be at 1/48 scale in centimeters. And then I have in the lower bottom right halved it again so that I can make a cardboard mock-up at half size to plan and lay everything out to check it's all going to fit. I've cut out a 2 foot by 2 foot piece of cardboard to represent a 4 foot by 4 foot board at half size, and I have also made the sides and rear walls and central spine of the blast pen to half size again by just cutting out cardboard, folding in half and using sellotape to hold the angle so I can lay them out onto the board. And then I have drawn round a rough outline of the Hurricane model onto a piece of paper and then scanned it into my computer and halved it, and then been able to replicate it 3 times onto a piece of paper to print off, to then mark out where the Hurricanes will fit on this board, which also means I can know that there is room to have one in the pen, one taxiing on the perimeter or taxi roadway going around the outside, and one on the runway in front. With kind permission, I am able to share with you now some of the pictures that I have been sent of the blast pens and other bits of detail around them that still exist today, so you can see what the walls around the sides of the blast pen look like in the central spine, but you can also then see the doorways and pathways into the rear walls where there was a bomb shelter. with the plan being to build the entire side of the airfield, multiple pens, hopefully a hangar and so forth. It means we can have a look also at what else was there at the same time as Squadron 253. So if I just get... So using my IF Squadrons book, I've gone through the list of squadrons that were based at Kenley in 1940, and having gone through here, compared when they were there, and 616 Squadron were also there at the same time, flying Spitfire Mark 1s. So, as we've got kits for them as well, it makes sense to base it when these two squadrons were there, so we can populate a few of the pens with Spitfires as well. So my next step is to open up these kits, see what paints etc. I need, and once I've got all that together, I can start building them while also working on enlarging the cardboard mock-up into the full-size actual build. So we'll hopefully very soon bring you that in an episode so you can actually see model construction rather than just research and overview of the plan. If you'd like to find out more about RAF Kenley, then you can visit the Kenley Revival website, or you can find them on Facebook at Kenley Airfield. Also, if you'd like to find out more or get in touch with the newly forming World War II reenactment group of 253 Squadron, an Instagram page has recently been set up and you can contact through there or via the messages underneath this video or to the email addresses at the end.
Okay, hi guys. Just going to a quick update on the F-18. She has had the primer on. She has had some work done on the joints again, which are my usual standard, which is not very good. But anyway, it's better now. Then she had a primer coat, and then she was given a pre-shade, and the underside grey has also been applied. So I'm just going to run through you with that. On the next session I would be spraying the upper colour on it, so I don't want to get too far. I'm trying to show you me making a mess with an airbrush even if we're really lucky, so just bear with me. Morning all, just another quick update. I'm still working on the Hornet. In fact, today's day I'm going to show you what I've done on the railway as well. As you see, the Hornet is pretty much intact now. Our main colours are on. A few coats of gloss varnish to take the decals, which I've just started to apply. There's the first one. These big decals are a little awkward, carry a lot of carrier film, which hopefully does not show too much. That's why we use the gloss coat. And indeed, there's the decal sheet. VFA 143, puking dogs. I told you the story about that. And not a lot to do really. Just a lot of decals, as you can see. I'll show you again. A lot of small stenciling there. It's a lot of decals really for a 72nd scale aircraft. Not all of them will be used. There are in fact two schemes, but I kind of like the greys and I like the low vis greys, so I stick to them where I can. The other version has a completely blue tail fins, which didn't appeal to me, so they'll be apple grey. And I'm using this. Should be a 2-part decal solution. Should be a set that you put on first, this on top to soften it. But being a tightwad, I've just got this. This will soften the decals. It allows them to conform into these scribe panel lines and any other lumps and bumps that they have to sit over. And the tail decal has to sit over quite a few lumps and bumps, as you can see. It's on the other side. Just get it in sunlight for you. You can see. So it's got to sit over them. So it needs something to help it sit down afterwards, which is what that does. Just apply a few coats as it dries until I'm happy with it. And well, that is the F18. I went buying the last few days, and I have in fact got myself another F15E last night, but not sure what will be next. But anyway, so that's the aircraft, that's the F18. On the railway, the bottom end, sat around 2 weeks ago feeling rather bored with myself, and that's dangerous because the cogs start to turn, and we ended up with, I'm going to call it an old canal, or the bottom end, the drag end of an old canal. It's probably used for mooring once, but not now. It's very silted up. Try to get this really mucky colour. I've not gone to town on this. I've not used loads of layers of varnish and artist gel or whatever, just for an effect, which gave me a chance to use the old fencing gloss in the back and bring out the terraced houses again. Terrace houses, they need a lot of weathering. A few people drunk there as well. Must have been a street party, I guess. I've got to build the sidewalk yet. I've got to build the pavement. Sorry, let's talk English. I've got to do the pavement yet. I am, of course, waiting for the famous Canada Pulse, which is not so much famous as infamous, which means I have a locomotive, a signal box detailing kit, a pack of card, and various other things that have been in the Pulse since the end of March, roughly. Still waiting for them to arrive. So one day, hopefully, A, they will arrive, and B, I'll be able to get that finished. Did quite a bit of groundwork just to tie it up to the fence and to the pavement edge that I built there, and the fence there, and the old corrugated fencing piece there, just to stop the local squirrels climbing over. And then, of course, a couple of barrels in there. Try to replicate the oil leaking out of them a bit. I'm not over happy with it, but it will do. It will do. Which means I have to move the bridge further forward. But I quite like the effect now. Like being able to look through into the depot, as you can see, and looking through into the houses and the edge shunt. So a little shorter in the depot area here, but that's fine. There's an opening at this end where the main vehicles, they come through the small tunnel there, parked there, so that's fine. I lifted up the extra track at the back of the maintenance building there. It seemed a bit superfluous to me, and I was tempted to put a locomotive on it, which then kind of traps it, so it's not really a stable in piece. So I've just got to finish off some groundwork in that. I'm going to leave the track effect there. You can see where it's lifted, which means the plate layers up is now sat there, and of course I'll have to put a buffer stop. I'm thinking of building actually a nice big concrete block buffer stop put in there, but I don't know. I've not decided yet. No rush, plenty of things to do. So generally that's where I'm up to. The plane is taking a lot, but doing this area around here took a bit of time as well. There's a lot of layers of gloss on that, and this fence piece here, I'm not sure about this. This probably won't be there. I'll put a bit of a fresh brick wall there or something, and all this will be just weed over and so there was a parapet or a bridge there one time that's been taken up now, so I'll probably do something like that with that. But kind of like the general effect now, trying to get that old Northern England industrial look. So stay tuned. Okay, that's all I've got for you this week, so don't fall asleep too easily this week, and next week see a big difference in the F18, definitely. Okay, thanks folks, bye.
My earliest memory of model making is building a Airfix Hurricane with my father in 1/72 scale. Must have been when I was about 6, 7, so just over 30 years ago now. And I also remember building super quick card building kits for the train set, as it were, there before we started turning into a proper model railway.
What is your earliest model making memory? And I'm gonna say, at the age of around 12, 13, my first model kit was a FX JU87 Stuka. Nice, easy to put together. The next one was the venerable Airfix Cutty Sark. An absolute nightmare for somebody who's only built one who was around that age. So it was a project too far for me. So my abiding memory is coming home from school one night to find my father, who hated models, hated model railways with a vengeance. Always said he would rather watch paint dry, and to find him and the guy from next door actually building this Cutty Sark. So that'll always stick with me, that one.
Well, I only actually began modelling myself about 4 years ago, but I've had an interest in modelling for many, many years. And one of the first things I completed was this. It's a Mark IV Cruisers tanker by Cromwell. There's the actual tank itself. And then obviously we've done a diorama base where it would sit onto as if it was actually in action in a muddy area. What has been my favourite model? Well, the actual one that I've enjoyed building the most was this. It's a Focke-Wulf FW190. I'll just show you the plane in a bit more detail. And like everything we do, it's also been built with a base. So it's on a runway. Obviously you've got the grass stretches either side.
I've really enjoyed everything I've built, but I think the ones that have stuck in my memory the most have been as a kid with my brother building the huge Revell 1/72 scale V36 Peacemaker kit that was massive, and we spent days working on that together. And then in more recent times building this little craft with my wife. That was a good day that we just sat down randomly and chose to build a kit. So that was just fun and spontaneous day. So those are the two that stick with me the most, I think.
It's not an easy one to answer. Every model railway I've built has always been my favourite model, but from a plastic kit point of view, probably the ones I'm working on now, which are the Academy 72nd scale jets, especially the F18. The fact I managed to finish one shows how good they are. So yeah, I'd say my most favourites probably are the Academy F18s, F15s, that sort of thing. The next model up, well, I think I've decided the next one up will be Academy's 72nd scale F15. I think it's the MSIP F15C, the F15C, the MSIP. That's another aircraft that I love, and having drooled over the parts in the box, they're lovely. So we'll see what sort of a mess I can make of that when I finish messing this one.
Well, I've actually got a couple of things lined up very shortly. Couple of bits I'm doing actually for a friend of mine called Brian, who has his own HO scale layout Belmont barn. So I've got a couple of bits to do for that. First of which is the weathering of a building for him, just some slight weathering for him. The other bit is actually doing some modification work to a HO 187 scale Mercedes Sprinter van. It's going to be completely resprayed with a few other modifications, including having the back doors opened as if it was being loaded up or unloaded after a group goes into a pub to do a gig. Again, all for his layout, Belmont Barn. As well as that, I'm hoping to then start on this Revell 187 scale big boy locomotive.
I'm going to be working on the aircraft for the RAF Kenley diorama with the Hurricanes for 253 Squadron and Spitfires for 616 Squadron, but also I've got the Star Wars diorama which I will be continuing with when some components arrive. Also got my model railways. I've got a couple currently in different stages of construction and they will feature in upcoming episodes once we can get access to where they're stored again. But also going back to the military theme, I've big into my ships as well. So I'm going to be working on an Ark Royal model, and then I'm going to scale it up and build it to a larger scale once I've understood more about the ship from building that. And then I've got a few other things in the pipeline as well, so that'll all feature at some point.
Although the 1950s and 60s witnessed the phasing out of steam traction on normal services around London, there was still a great variety of motive power to interest the enthusiast. In this programme we will look largely at the main lines and see some of the locomotives which were once an everyday sight. At Paddington, top link expresses were generally worked by King or Castle class 460s, while station pilot duties were handled by more humble tank locomotives. During the 50s and early 60s, BR Standard Class 7 Pacifics, better known as Britannias, could also be seen at Paddington. But the majority of locomotives were of GWR origin. Here we see a Castle Class 460 backing onto the Cambrian Coast Express. At busy times, particularly during the holiday season, some more unusual types would be seen on Western passenger duties, such as this 9F210O. Paddington was a marvellous place for observing locomotives, and the country end of Platform 1 was always popular with enthusiasts. This provided them with a good general view, and it was possible to see locomotives backing in light as well as departing with trains. This is one of Mr. Collett's 61XX262 tanks, which were introduced in 1931 primarily for suburban passenger work, but were also used on empty stock duties. The presence of classes such as Castles, Halls and Kings made Paddington a magnet for those with a love for Great Western locomotives. Still showing signs of GW ownership on its tank side, this pannier is one of the 97XX series, which were fitted with condensing gear for working over the Metropolitan widened lines. The 61XX class were handsome locomotives and were used on suburban duties from Paddington until the advent of the diesel multiple units. Number 5988, Bostock Hall, was one of a class of mixed traffic 460s introduced by Collett in 1928. Britannia Pacific number 70027 Rising Star departs with a down express. She was one of the Britannias which carried modified smoke deflectors to improve visibility after one of her classmates, Polar Star, was involved in an accident near Didcot in 1955. Collett's castles were very fine locomotives and always made an impressive sight. Here one arrives with the Up Cathedrals Express. The 94XX pannier tanks introduced by Mr. Hawksworth in 1947 were very familiar on empty stock duties around Paddington. Other types included the 15XXs and the 57XXs. When clean, BR lined green looked particularly pleasing and it suited the castles perfectly. The Kings were the largest of the Great Western 460s and were introduced by Collett in 1927. From 1955 onwards, the Kings were fitted with double chimneys and eventually the whole class had them. In the 1930s, the GWR introduced diesel road.